always drawn to me wanting to do that with food. So I'll be like, hey mommy, eat this banana, here, like a green juice, eat well and your body will heal. Part 2 of who is the cultural dietitian? I want to dive into my introduction to nutrition. And yes, it goes back to my childhood. I know that might seem a little cliche, but that's where the story began. I'd say my biggest inspiration for why I am where I am right now is my mom. Unfortunately, she has passed, coming up on 2 years shortly, but she is a big part of why I am where I am. And it leads back to when I was around 4, going on 5, thereabout. She suffered a massive stroke. And that led to many years that she never fully recovered in terms of getting back her mobility. But as a young child growing up and seeing her go through a lot of her challenges, it lit something in me. And I am like, I want to help. I want to figure out, how do I help her get better? But somehow it was always drawn to me wanting to do that with food. So I'll be like, hey mommy, eat this banana, here, like a green juice, eat well and your body will heal, right? Don't know where that came from, but it was instilled in me. It wasn't until UWI, when I went to the University of the West Indies, St. Augustine campus here in Trinidad, that I was actually introduced to nutritional sciences. And thanks to academic advising, okay, so I started off with a double major in biology and nutrition and agribusiness. And then when I told my advisor, like, my interest, she was like, I think you need to do the nutritional sciences major. I'm like, yeah. So I dropped agribusiness, I took up nutritional sciences, and I completed a double major in biology and nutritional sciences. Went on to work for a bit and, went to the University of the Southern Caribbean. And here, through my experience at USC, is where I really got this cultural nutrition concept. It was like the birth of it. Okay, now at USC, as a dietetic student, part of your experience, at least when I was there, we took up practicums throughout the Caribbean region. My cohort and I, we did practicums in Trinidad here, and then Grenada and Barbados. And let me tell you, in Grenada in particular, listen, you better come correct. And you need to be very aware. So our preceptors always made us very aware as we're going into the community and we're talking and we're interacting with persons. You need to be mindful of how, what is the culture? What are their norms? How are they eating and why? And then how do you take that information, combine it with your nutrition education, and give them some practical bits of advice? For instance, one thing our preceptor kept, she was like, don't tell Grenadians, don't put milk in their teas or don't put milk in their coffee, because that is a big part of how milk or dairy is included in their diet, right? No, we may just put a little thing for color. The base of their tea is milk. But it planted that seed in me when it came to understanding, connecting culture and nutrition. So that was my first big aha moment, I would say. My next big aha moment when it came to cultural nutrition would have been during my internship in the US, because I did study in the US to become a dietitian, as well as I got my Master of Science of Public Health at the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health. But what I noticed, and I phrase it as, there was such a language barrier, not in terms of different spoken languages, but when it came to food as a language. And so, there are a lot of microcultures in the US, and there are some persons who would have struggled more than others because maybe it was difficult for them to adapt to being in a new environment. And again, food connects you to home. Food connects you to your heritage. With the disconnect in terms of understanding the different food cultures, some persons struggled more than others. And I was just like, why do we need to give up our foods, our cultural foods, to be considered healthy, right? That just not making sense to me. And that is where I really think it's cemented. I need to do things a little bit differently. Now, how the cultural dietitian came as a term was during the pandemic, okay? I was studying abroad, due to graduate in 2020, which I did. Everything was locked down. And we're like, okay, lockdown, how long is this lockdown going to last? People, I didn't get back home. I didn't get back to Trinidad until 2021. But we found that during that time, I was like, listen, I just sat my board exam. I am officially a registered dietitian with a CDR, and I need to make sense of what's in my brain. My brain will just like shrivel up if I don't use it. And I started a blog. And I'm like, what it does really represents the message that I want to put out there. And at first I was like, balanced nutrition. I went on a search and I saw so many balanced nutrition things. I was like, okay, yes, I want it to be balanced, but it needs to have a stronger message on that. And I prayed on it. And the cultural dietitian came to me. I always say it was a divine blessing, a divine name. And the cultural dietitian was like, search. Nothing? Cool, that's mine. But I wanted a name that represented what I stood for. And that is eating healthier, but not losing the cultural aspect of it. Okay, cultural dietitian represents that, those persons who want to optimize their wellness, but not have to compromise on their entire culture and food culture and heritage to be able to do so.